The last thing I remember was the shriek of collapsing hulls, the firestorm of plasma that consumed our landing craft, and the deafening silence after. My squad, 10 of us, had been sent to explore the newly discovered planet Zithra 7, a world rumored to host an advanced alien civilization. When we landed, we found more than we bargained for, a city built from materials that seemed alive, structures that pulsed and breathed, and an atmosphere thick with strange pheromones that made the air itself feel conscious. We were scientists, soldiers, explorers, trained for danger, but nothing could have prepared us for what happened next. The first wave of creatures came without warning. They were unlike anything recorded in human databases, six-limbed, scaled, with eyes like molten gold that reflected not light, but thought. Their movements were coordinated, precise, intelligent beyond comprehension. They didn't attack randomly. They hunted with strategy, isolating each of us, picking us off one by one. I was the last to fall back. My friends, my team, died in ways too terrible to recount, one after another. I watched helplessly as their screams were absorbed by the alien city itself, like echoes swallowed by an ocean of consciousness. I ran, hiding in the bioluminescent undergrowth, trying to keep my breathing silent, my heart contained. It was in those first hours, alone and terrified, that I realized something terrifying. The city was alive. Not in the metaphorical sense humans sometimes used, but truly alive. The walls pulsed with a rhythm that matched the creature's movements. The ground beneath me vibrated in response to my presence. The air was saturated with awareness. I had no weapon, no way to call for help. Humanity, it seemed, had overreached this time. And yet, by some miracle or perhaps sheer luck, I survived the first night. The Alien Queen. On the second day, I saw her. The Alien Queen. She was colossal, towering over the living architecture like a mountain draped in scales and shimmering chitin. Her multiple eyes, arranged in concentric circles, tracked me as if she could see not just my movements, but my very thoughts. I froze. Most would have panicked. Most would have screamed and died. But in that moment, something in me shifted. Fear still throbbed through my veins, but instinctively, I stopped running. I observed. I studied. I calculated. Humans survived not because we were the strongest, but because we adapted. And adaptation, I realized, was the only chance I had. The queen did not move to attack. She simply watched. Her presence was overwhelming, a psychic tide pressing against my mind, yet somehow not malevolent. I felt curiosity emanating from her, a slow, probing investigation of my existence. Over the next several days, or maybe weeks, time was meaningless in the queen's presence. I learned to survive beneath her rule. I moved silently through her hive, observing the other creatures, understanding the hierarchy, noting the queen's patterns. Each day, I learned something new. The pulse of the city, the signals the creatures used to communicate, the timing of their patrols. I discovered that the queen did not speak in words. Her communication was instinctual, psychic, and deeply alien. At first, I could not comprehend her intentions. Was she testing me? Entertaining herself with my life? Or did she see something in me worth preserving? A fragile understanding. Survival became a science. I learned to mimic the creature's behavior, to anticipate their reactions. I observed the queen's feeding rituals, the way she nurtured her brood, the mechanisms of her hive mind. Slowly, I realized that she was not purely hostile. Her species had no concept of murder for pleasure. Her attacks were defensive, a measure to protect her domain and her offspring. I began leaving small offerings, pieces of food, tools, items I scavenged from the remains of my squad. She accepted them, or at least did not destroy them. One night, I dared to approach her chamber, a cavern of living crystal where the air vibrated with psychic resonance. She rose to her full height, and for the first time we locked eyes, or rather, I locked eyes with all of her eyes simultaneously. And then she spoke to me, not with words, but with thought. A sudden, overwhelming flood of understanding surged into my mind. You are different. You are not one of the others. You survive because you observe. You endure because you learn. It was terrifying and exhilarating at once. I could feel her measuring me, weighing my mind, my instincts, my morality. I realized something profound. She did not see me as prey. She saw me as a potential ally, or perhaps a creature worthy of coexistence. The test. The days turned into weeks. I adapted, studied, learned the Queen's methods, and slowly earned a place in her presence. It was not friendship. It was a tentative understanding, a silent agreement. I would not interfere with her brood, and she would not crush me. Then came the test. A new wave of human explorers arrived, our reinforcements, unaware of what had transpired. They landed with their weapons, their arrogance, their belief in human supremacy. They stormed the hive, shouting, firing, and trying to capture the Queen. I tried to warn them, but they could not comprehend me. To them, I had become something monstrous, an alien sympathizer. The Queen reacted with force unlike anything I had seen. The reinforcements were obliterated in minutes, their weapons useless against the psychic and physical might of her hive. And yet, she did not harm me. She did not even threaten me. She merely observed, and in that observation, I understood her decision. She trusted me, and she expected me to act with reason. It was a lesson that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Humanity had come to the hive thinking power lay in weapons, in numbers, in dominance. But the Queen's true power lay in understanding, in connection, in the silent intelligence that ran through every scale and every pulse of her city. The bridge between worlds. Over time, I became more than a survivor. I became a bridge. I began communicating with the Queen on a higher level, sharing insights about human behavior, explaining the concepts of diplomacy, strategy, and morality. She, in turn, shared her hive's knowledge, the mechanics of their energy systems, their understanding of life and death, the subtle ways they perceived the universe. In this fragile partnership, I realized a truth I had always known but had never truly felt. Humanity's strength was not our technology, nor our numbers, nor our firepower. It was our adaptability, our intellect, our ability to learn and empathize, even in the face of incomprehensible terror. Months passed. I grew stronger, wiser, more attuned to the Queen's presence. I learned to anticipate her moods, to interpret her psychic signals, to navigate her world without fear. And through this journey, I came to respect her, to understand her as a leader, a protector, and a mother of a civilization unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. I survived when everyone else died, but survival alone was not enough. The Queen taught me that true power and true humanity lay in understanding, in connection, and in the courage to face a force far greater than ourselves without succumbing to fear or pride. The awakening of humanity eventually, I was allowed to leave the hive for brief excursions, returning to human outposts to relay information, establish protocols, and report the hive's existence. My tales were met with skepticism and fear, but I had proof. The humans who once sought to destroy the Queen's brood were gone, and I had survived, alive, unbroken, and carrying the knowledge of a civilization that could teach us what it meant to endure and coexist. I never forgot the Queen. She remained an enigma, a constant presence in my mind, a reminder of the lessons she had imparted. And I realized, as I watched humanity grapple with the truths I brought back, that the universe was not a place to conquer. It was a place to learn, to respect, and to adapt, qualities that, in the end, defined what it meant to be human. I am the last of my squad. I survived because I observed, because I adapted, because I respected what I did not understand. And beneath the alien queen, I found not just survival, but enlightenment. Humanity's journey into the stars would not be defined by conquest, but by courage, intelligence, and the quiet strength to endure where others fail. In the hive, I am no longer just a human. I am a student of the Queen, a witness to the unimaginable, and a living testament to what it means to persevere when everyone else has fallen. And one day, perhaps, humanity will learn to see the universe the way she does, alive, intelligent, and deserving of both respect and awe. The weeks I spent under the alien queen's watch transformed me. At first, I had been nothing more than a survivor, scavenging, hiding, listening. But over time, I became a student. Every movement the queen made, every ripple in the hive's psychic field, taught me more about the alien species than any book or mission brief ever could. I began to understand her world as she understood it. The pulse of the city, the hierarchy of the brood, the subtle psychic threads that connected every creature to the queen. I learned to anticipate her moods, to interpret her thoughts before they manifested, and to navigate her environment without triggering aggression. And then came the true test of my humanity. A second human expedition arrived. Unlike the first, they were heavily armed, confident, and certain that humans belonged at the top of the food chain. They stormed the hive, blasting at the walls, calling out orders, their arrogance shining brighter than any weapon they carried. I tried to warn them, but their minds were already set. To them, I was an anomaly, a traitor, an alien sympathizer. They did not listen. The queen's response was instantaneous and terrifying. The hive came alive with a roar that reverberated through the ground, through the air, and through the very bones of the intruders. Tentacles, scales, and psychic waves struck them down with surgical precision. It was swift, merciless, and absolute. Within moments, the attackers lay defeated, unconscious or worse, their weapons useless against her hive's might. I watched from the shadows, my heart pounding, my chest tight. Yet she did not touch me. She observed. And in her gaze, I understood something I had only begun to realize. True power was not in brute force. True power was understanding, foresight, and the wisdom to act with restraint. After the chaos settled, she turned her attention to me. Her thoughts pressed against mine, not with violence, but with inquiry. You survived when they could not.
Why?
I realized then that my survival was not luck. It had been deliberate. I had listened. I had watched. I had adapted. I had learned. And in that moment, I chose to speak, not with words, but with intention. I let her feel my thoughts, my understanding of her world, and my respect for her brood. I demonstrated, without deception, that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons or conquest, but in curiosity, empathy, and intelligence. The queen paused. Her vast psychic presence pulsed slowly, then shifted in a way I could only interpret as approval. She did not speak, but the psychic resonance that flowed into me was unmistakable. You are worthy. From that day forward, my role changed. I became a bridge between worlds, a living ambassador for humanity beneath the alien queen. I learned their language, not in words, but in patterns, pulses, and instincts. I documented their technology, their society, their hive mind, and I shared, cautiously, what humans could offer in return: strategy, morality, foresight. The hive itself seemed to accept me as part of its ecosystem. I moved freely beneath the queen's watch, gathering knowledge, observing the brood, and learning the subtle arts of coexistence. For the first time, I understood that survival was not enough. True survival demanded comprehension, respect, and the courage to confront the unknown without fear. Months passed. I ventured briefly to human outposts to relay information, and though many dismissed my reports as hallucinations or exaggerations, the data I carried was irrefutable. Humanity was not the apex predator here, but humanity could endure. Humanity could learn. Humanity could rise, not by destruction, but by understanding. Every time I returned to the hive, the queen greeted me, not with violence, but with acknowledgement. Her brood accepted my presence, no longer curious, no longer threatened. And I realized something extraordinary. I had become a part of a civilization more advanced and alien than anything we had ever imagined, yet I had not lost myself. I had brought humanity to her world through patience, intelligence, and courage. One night, as I rested beneath the pulsating walls of the hive, I reflected on all I had survived. My squad was gone. The human reinforcements were gone. Everyone else had died. And yet I remained. Not as a conqueror, not as a master, not as prey, but as a witness, a learner, and a bridge between two worlds. The queen's psychic presence enveloped me, not in dominance, but in understanding. I could feel the pulse of her life force, the rhythm of her brood, and the ancient knowledge embedded in every corner of her hive. And I understood that humanity's place in the cosmos would not be dictated by power, technology, or aggression, but by intellect, adaptability, and empathy. In that moment, I vowed to carry the lessons of the alien queen back to humanity. I had survived where others had perished, not by might, but by embracing the essence of what made us human: curiosity, courage, and the will to endure. And beneath the shadow of the alien queen, I realized the ultimate truth: survival alone is meaningless without wisdom, and power alone is hollow without understanding. Humanity's legacy would not be written in the ashes of conquered worlds. It would be written in the minds of those willing to see, to learn, and to act with intelligence and compassion, even in the face of the unimaginable. I am still alive. I am still learning. I am still human. And one day, the universe will understand that when humanity meets the unknown, it does not merely survive, it adapts, endures, and thrives.